Hello and welcome to Linesniper Fight Night. I'm your host, Dave Milhouse. Today we're talking UFC 263 live from Glendale, Arizona. We got Adesanya versus Vettori 2. I got my man Joe here to talk the fights. You can find him at Fire Up MMA Capper on Twitter. We're going to go through the main card, sprinkle the prelims, find you all the value so that you can make money this weekend while watching the best sport on earth go down. How you doing today, Joe?
Good. How you doing today, Dave?
Awesome. Every day's good. It's always good when we're talking UFC as well. This main event, very interesting bout. Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori. These guys fought once a couple of years ago, went to a split decision. A lot of people think that means that this fight will also be close. The odds, however, do not indicate that it's the closest fight. We have Adesanya sitting at about a minus 260 right now. The comeback on Vettori anywhere between 210 and 220. How do you see this fight going, Joe? Is there some value on either side, or do the odds makers have it just right for this rematch?
Yeah, looking at the line, I feel like the odds makers have it pretty close to where I was capping it when I was doing my research. A few things I want to point out in their initial fight that I noticed is that Adesanya was landing some good low kicks early in the fight and early in rounds to kind of establish the late kick, kind of manage his distance. And if you ever watch Israel Adesanya, he always kind of starts off his fights kind of slow. I'd say first half round one, he's just taking mental notes, not really, doing a whole lot, controlling the octagon, taking those mental notes and establishing himself as a better striker, getting his opponent's timing. That appeared to be the same with Vettori the first time. And one thing that a lot of people are looking into is that Vettori, they think just because Jan had some advantage in the wrestling game over Adesanya in the last fight, he was able to take him down, gain top control in the fourth and fifth round, and beat Adesanya in his last outing. They think Vettori's going to have the same success. While I do agree Vettori is a better wrestler than Jan, which can be disputed, but I think he's actually better on techniques. Matchups make fights, and Adesanya was stopping Vettori's takedowns in rounds 1 and 2 of their initial fight. He got taken down in round 3, but Vettori never established position. He kind of laid on top of him, didn't cause any damage, and Adesanya got up after a minute. Looking back at the original fight, it was a split decision. I don't know how it was a split. I don't know what round you give Vettori besides 3. I thought it was pretty clear, 29-28 Adesanya. And I think that this fight, Adesanya is going out to finish Vettori. I will say Vettori does seem to slow down a little bit his fights. He did go decision with Hermanson and Kevin Holland, his last 2 outings, which are both 5-round main events, shows he can go the 5 rounds. But if you notice, he seems to kind of take a round off here and there, or kind of stops his flurries, fights more defensive for minutes at a time. I don't think Adesanya's let him do that. After he takes the notes early in the fight, I expect Adesanya to kind of take over, be able to stop the initial takedowns. He has good initial takedown defense. Against Jan, he was kind of overreaching, getting taken down and laid on. But Vettori is not 30 pounds heavier than him. Jan, Adesanya moved up a weight class. It's a completely different fight. Matchups make fights. The way I see this going is round 1 and 2 may be competitive. I do like Adesanya in this fight. I don't think there's any advantage with the current line at minus 250-ish. Maybe it gets down to 200. I'll take a stab at Adesanya. I got a shirt on now I won money on him in the Paulo Costa fight, so I bought a shirt. But a few spots I did like were Adesanya in rounds 3, round 4, and round 5. All these round 3s at plus 1100, round 4s at plus 1600, and round 5s at plus 2500. So I'm not saying throw a ton of money on these. These are prop bets for a reason. They may not be likely to hit, but if you're saying throw 0.1 units on each of the 3, even if round 3 hits, which is the least odds, you're still getting a 3 times return on investment. And I think Adesanya stops Vettori later in the fight once he starts to slow down a little bit. And if he isn't able to land those initial takedowns, I expect Adesanya to kind of take over in the mid to late of the fight.
I like that. And when we look at the data here, it's very, very similar as far as striking versus expected goes. They're both in the same ballpark, very above average in terms of their accuracy. And strikes lineup per minute versus against is a very similar gap as well. Where you see a difference in the data pool here is in the grappling, and Vettori is a very decent grappler. He's landing 2.2 takedowns every 15 minutes. You got 25 minutes to work here. And he's landing them at a 53% accuracy. So a lot of people think, obviously, if Marvin can take him down and control him, then he's a live dog. And if he can't, then he's obviously big dog, and probably the line could be wider, we could say. But yeah, good point. Jan is a huge man. There is no comparison between him and Marvin Vettori. I do think Marvin can, kind of throw his knucks and pressure like that to set up takedowns. And I do assume he'll get one or two in this fight. But I'm not sure that'll be enough to win. Izzy's decent off his back when, it's not a much larger man getting the top pressure. So I agree with you. I actually think this line is pretty bang on. And you know what? They're supposed to be once in a while, right? The odds makers aren't supposed to be leaving big edges. This is one where I would say there probably is no edge. Israel Adesanya probably should be in the minus 230, 40 range. And he's a little bit inflated on that, but you can't get Marvin Vettori at 230 or 40, which would be the fair line. So to me, this seems like there's no value. It'll be fun to watch. I know that's not what people want to hear. But yeah, if you like Adesanya, maybe sprinkle those props Joe was talking about. A late finish is probably, well, certainly more likely than an early one, and the odds indicate the opposite. I don't mind that at all. We've got another championship fight here. UFC flyweight title bout. Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno. They recently fought each other for the title, finished in a draw. We can draw a lot from that fight. We could say Moreno's got quite the chin on him. He took some absolute nukes. He's got good volume, good cardio. It was a very close fight, an extremely close fight. If we just look at the numbers, Davison outlanded him 137 to 132. Moreno got 4 takedowns to 2. That is a super close fight, and yet we're looking at odds again that don't really say it's a super close fight. Davison Figueiredo sitting around minus 210 right now, 220 on some books. He was out in the minus 250 range, open at minus 275 on Bet Online. So money is coming in on the underdog. I totally understand why. He was right in that fight. He was going nowhere. But if we look at Davison Figueiredo's last time out against Joseph Benavidez, that was the same situation. They fought for a title, but he didn't make weight, so it wasn't for the title. It was a pretty close fight till it wasn't. Then the rematch, Davison seemed to have it all figured out. Knew exactly what he was doing, walked him down, beat the crap out of him. So I would say, in a sense, that this rematch here might benefit Figueiredo a bit. He'll have his movements down, his game plan down a bit more. But ultimately, again, I think the line's a little bit too stretched. If anything, in my opinion, I think there's some value on Brandon Moreno here. But I'm just not willing to step in front of the Davison train. Like there's certain guys that if you're getting just a touch of value, you really don't need to fade them. Now, I got to kick this over to you because I'm kind of lost here. I could see either guy winning it, but I do lean towards Davison, and I do think the line should be in that minus 200 range. Do you think there's value on either side here?
Yeah, so I actually see value on Moreno, but before I get into the breakdown of the fight, there's a few X factors I want to point out that went during the fight and kind of before the fight. So one thing to point out is before the first fight, Figueiredo spent the night in the hospital the night before the fight. So this, who knows if that was the best Davison Figueiredo we're going to see this Saturday. The other thing is Brandon Moreno also got injured in the fight. He separated his shoulder in the third, fourth round. You can't really tell where, but if you notice in the fifth round, his arms died by his side. The whole time Joe Rogan screaming he broke his arm. It was a separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder. Same thing, but he was labored and he lost the fifth round. If he would have won the fifth round, we'd have a new champ right now. I think he actually won the fifth round on 1 or 2 scorecards, but you get the point. When going back and watching the fight, I did score it 47-47 as a draw, as the judges. I think they got it right. But I can definitely see how you give Moreno's rounds 2 through 4, and with him getting the point with a groin shot, you could add a new champ. So, like you said, I thought this fight was super close in the initial score. So a few things I want to point out is early in the fight, it looked like Figueiredo was manhandling Moreno a little bit. His physicality, he's a big flyweight. He's jacked. He's very big, strong for his size, and he tends to be able to walk through a lot of these flyweights. The thing is, Moreno was able to sit there. He has a chin. He took the best shots Figueiredo had. And it's not like, obviously everyone's all scared of Figgy's power. And they have a right to be, but at the same time, he's 125 pounds. We're not talking about Francis Ngannou here. We're not fading Francis, So that's one thing I wanted to mention as well. Another thing is he's 33 years old. He's getting a little older. The weight class, the lighter weight classes are kind of usually dominated by younger fighters. It's tough to call that weight. And like I said, he's a big 125 pounder. So as he gets older, it's going to get more and more difficult for him to cut the weight. And he's already missed weight, like you said, in his initial title fight with Joe Benavidez. I believe it was a year and a half ago, roughly. So he's not a spring chicken anymore. So a few things to point out in their initial fight that I thought stood out was, like I said, Figueiredo was manhandling him early. But then if you notice, he started to slow down, and every time he seemed to get in a bad position or slow down, he fouled Moreno. The first time he got taken down in the second round, eye poke gouged his eyes to get up. Referee noticed it, let Moreno gain the position, but two judges scored round two for Figueiredo. Then round three, when he started to slow down a little bit, seemed a little more labor, breathing heavy. Clear groin shot. That's probably one of the worst groin shots I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, watch it back. I had a hole in my stomach for a few minutes. So we weren't for those fouls, and letting as Figueiredo started to gas a little bit, gave himself a few minutes of break, a few minutes of rest there to kind of either get out of position or get back up, get a breather. I think Moreno might have fared a lot better, especially without the dislocated arm. As you said, I do see value on Moreno here. I'm going to be betting him for one unit. I got him at plus 190. So, like you said, initially I was on Figueiredo. Like you said, after in a rematch against Joe Benavidez, we saw what he can do. He does have the power, but like I said, he's not Francis Ngannou. If you're afraid to having your fighter get KO'd, especially at 125 pounds, maybe this business isn't for you. It's a fight game. People get knocked out. It happens. I see this a lot closer to a 50-50 pick 'em than in a minus two, minus 220, 230 to plus 190. So I'm going Moreno here, and I do like a prop bet of him by decision, but I'm not huge into props. Just kind of like I said with the Adesanya ones, you like betting small bucks on every fight. That's one to kind of take a look at as well, in my opinion.
Right on. Fair enough. I would say by the data, these fighters are very close statistically. Like they're both right around even on strikes absorbed versus landed. And they're both pretty similar in terms of striking versus expected. Figueiredo's a little bit better. But, when you see someone like Davison Figueiredo landing 3.38 per minute and getting hit with 3.35 a minute, that hardly sounds like a champion, like he's barely outpacing anybody. This is a guy I've lost a fortune on. I've faded this guy so many damn times because he just can't win on the scorecards, really. He's not putting himself up enough. In a point fight, Figueiredo's really not the greatest. As I said, he's getting hit with just as much as he's landing, except he lands with a bit more power, and he's putting all these guys out or choking them out or something. I backed Tim Elliott against him at like plus 180 like a couple of years ago. Don't think we'd be getting anything less than minus 500 on Figgy now, but Elliott was smoking him in that fight as far as points go. Like he was up like 3-1 in strikes until when he got choked out. This is a guy, like I said, I have trouble capping because he's 125 pounds. He puts you out cold every time. And it's like, how long can this continue? How long can we deal with this kind of variance from a 125-pound man? I'm not really sure. He does hit like a truck, but I'm with you. If there's value to be found, it has to be on the Moreno side here. I'm not sure I'm going to touch it. We'll find out later in the week if the line moves to maybe a little bit better of a number for me. Here's an interesting fight. Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz. I have no idea why in hell Leon Edwards is facing Nate Diaz. And I also can't figure out why this is a 5-round fight. It's not for a title. It's not a main event. Why is this scheduled for 5 minutes? I haven't seen any reasoning, but it is. And here we have, Nate's more of a hype guy. He hasn't been good in years. I mean, this is a guy whose last few wins here are against Anthony Pettis, McGregor. That's a good win, but like McGregor has gas issues back then when he's crushing whiskey every day. Michael Johnson, who's a bum, Gray Maynard. I mean, Nate's hardly beat anybody. And that goes back to like 2013 when he beat Gray Maynard. Those are all the wins he's got. Pettis is dusty. McGregor, when he's drunk and not caring, we know is nowhere near the McGregor of the old. Michael Johnson, what a waste of talent. I mean, Nate Diaz has basically done nothing in the last 10 years. It's astonishing that this guy's still a star. He throws muffins, in my opinion. So I highly doubt he's going to hurt Leon Edwards. But I will say he is live in certain aspects. I'm going to get you to break this one down. I'll go over the data at the end. Is there possibly value on Leon Edwards at this minus, 600 line we're sitting with now? Yikes. But go ahead, take us through it.
Yeah, I don't want to have my first appearance on a YouTube channel say that I see value in a minus 600 favorite, but I think I might have to do that, which is kind of shocking. So going back, looking at Nate Diaz's film, like you said, I'm not that high on Jorge Masvidal either. I know you kind of said the same. He got stopped. I don't think that fight was very close. They want a rematch. I still have no idea why. I thought Masvidal picked him apart. But one thing that stood out to me is that Masvidal actually landed takedowns on Diaz, and when he got on top, he kind of laid on him. Nate didn't put up any fight, didn't work his way back up, didn't get to the cage, wall walk, didn't fight for submissions off his back, kind of just laid there. He got picked apart. If Jorge Masvidal is having success taking you down, that's tough. And I personally think Leon Edwards is probably Nate Diaz's toughest opponent, maybe his entire career. I know that sounds crazy,
Yeah.
but he fought McGregor at 170 when McGregor had to gain 15 pounds in a week or 2 weeks notice, who gassed out, and Diaz locked in the sub. The second time Conor was ready, but at the same time Conor McGregor's kind of it's like the Joker Batman situation they always say, where they're kind of made for each other. They each highlight each other's strengths so well. Conor's a power puncher. Diaz can take a shot, so it makes Conor look great. Conor gasses out, so Nate has his moments to shine, so he looks great. It's just an awesome fight, but at the same time, Leon Edwards, I think, is another monster. I think he's better than Nate almost everywhere. I do think Nate can have some success, and there are ways for him to win. It's just such at low odds that it makes this fight tough for him. Like I said, Nate has a great cardio, but Leon Edwards doesn't have cardio issues. He has a great chin. Leon's a better striker. Nate Diaz, the top criteria in MMA of judging since I believe the 2018 judging criteria was changed, is damage. And whenever Nate gets hit, he seems to bleed. So if a round's close and all of a sudden you start getting a gash over your head, you bleed. Who you think they're giving the round to? It's a tough fight. I had a few of my friends who are casual MMA fans text me, "Hey, Nate Diaz is giant plus money. Why aren't we betting him?" I told him, keep your money safe. I don't see any value on Nate, but I'm hoping the public comes in pouring on Nate, and we can get Edwards at minus 400. And I think there's no such thing as free money in gambling, but I think it's close to free money. And this is about as lopsided a match I've seen since it's like Kamaya versus Mearshart. It's a tough fight for Nate. He can get the crowd behind him and start doing his taunting and flicking him off and slapping him and doing that. But at the end of the day, that's not how you win fights anymore. He's used to the big lights. This is Edwards' biggest fight, so maybe that's a factor. There's things you can't cap that maybe Nate could take over with, but yeah, this is a tough fight for Nate. I do see value on Edwards. I'm probably going to use him as parlay piece somewhere. I hate saying I see a favorite this big as a parlay piece, but it happens occasionally.
Oh, I'm with you 100% here. I don't think this is competitive for even a second. There's one area, one little area, maybe Nate's jujitsu,
Yep.
could pull something off. But his wrestling is not good enough. He's never going to take down Leon Edwards. Like, it's just not going to happen. So how's he going to do this? Like, Leon would have to take him down and then screw up and turn over somehow. Leon Edwards is so calculated. This guy never makes mistakes. That's why he doesn't have huge volume, but he always makes sure he's landing more than he's taking. He's doing it at a nice clip too, 47% accuracy with power behind it. We've seen in his last fight against Bilal Muhammad, man, does he throw heat. He throws that high kick so fast. I don't even honestly know if anyone throws it faster. Nate eats shots like he's eating breakfast. Like, I think he's just going to get killed flat out. I don't know. Like, 5 rounds seems stupid. I don't know why this is 5 rounds. And everyone thinks Nate's this guy with this amazing cardio and 5 round fights are built for him and everything. But no, I don't think so. Leon Edwards has just as good a cardio, maybe better than Nate Diaz as of late. I don't think his cardio looked too good against Jorge Masvidal, and he's getting older. He's not active. So I'm not going to assume he's a cardio machine anymore. And I'm with you. I actually see some Leon Edwards value too. At minus 500, I was really thinking about just laying the hammer. I didn't, and now it's like -6. But if you're looking for parlay pieces and whatnot, this is about as safe as it gets. Better striker, more power, better footwork, better wrestling, you name it, all of that, distance control, the rest, the ability to inflict damage. It all goes to Leon Edwards here. I'd be very shocked if Nate's little muffin hands hurt him. He's a volume guy. But in the event that Nate is able to give volume, he always ends up receiving quite a bit. He's only landing about 0.8 of a strike a minute more over his career. But these are against guys that are nowhere near Leon Edwards. Not even close. I assume Leon outstrikes him significantly, finishes this fight. I don't really see it going the distance. I mean, I actually think that would be bad for Leon Edwards if it went the distance. So I've been kind of looking at the under here. It went from plus money to favorite pretty quick. And Leon Edwards inside the distance, you can get it like plus 120 right now. I mean, he might not win inside the distance, but you have to think about the amount of shots Nate's going to have to eat just to survive without really ever having a moment. I don't know. So plus 120, I think there's value there. I think it's at least a coin flip that Leon finishes this guy within 5 rounds. So slight value if you like plus 120 coin flips. Leon Edwards inside the distance is probably for you. Next up, Damian Maia, Bilal Muhammad. Very interesting fight. I'm going to kick this one right over to you, and then I'll clean it up again.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a fight that originally I was really intrigued with Bilal Muhammad, and I still think there's more value in him than Damian Maia, but I am passing on this one completely. One of the reasons why is if you look at Bilal Muhammad's previous fights, I do think Bilal Muhammad to start is very underrated as a whole. I think he's top, borderline top 10 fighter, like top 10, maybe 5 to 10 ranked. And he's fought Diego Lima. He dominated him. Lyman Good, I think he's way better than him. He won that. Kashi Soto won that. Chris Blunder won that. He's on a big winning streak. He's very solid. No contest, Leon Edwards. I think Leon probably won that fight, but I think the step up in competition is good, and I think that Damian Maia gives him a good challenge. But the one thing, if you notice with the previous opponents I listed, is that he's never really faced a grappler. And that's the one thing that concerns me is because I do not know how he's going to react to Damian Maia, where every time Maia gets hit, he might be the guy where if he gets hit, he goes down, act like he's hurt just to get you in a knot. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is next level. Bilal Muhammad has a striking advantage, volume advantage, power advantage, every advantage in the book besides I just don't know if I could trust his fight IQ to not get tied in a knot. So that's my one concern. I think this fight, like you said, I do think Muhammad wins. I don't not sure if there's value there or not. But the one thing that concerns me is the path to victory for Maia by sub. But if Bilal sticks to his game plan, I think he wins. I am concerned with Maia's chin because he did get KO'd pretty bad off by Burns, and it didn't look like it was that great of a shot. He is 43. He's not a spring chicken. If Bilal even starts landing some volume, you never know. Maia could just go down. So I lean Muhammad heavily. I just had to pass because I do not know if I could trust his fight IQ and the fact he's never faced an actual grappler. Kind of scares me. So for me, it's a pass.
Yeah, totally fair enough. Not even just a decent grappler, but one like Damian Maia is.
Yep.
That's a huge step up. So if we take a look at the data here, Bilal Muhammad on the feet is so much better, really, than Damian Maia in terms of output. He's landing 4.75 strikes a minute. Damian Maia is landing 1.8. I mean, he's going to get ahead with the striking. Although Bilal is absorbing more than Damian, he's absorbing 4, Damian's absorbing 2. But that puts Damian Maia in a negative strike differential on the feet. And Bilal ahead by his 0.75 strikes a minute, which it does add up. But it's not, the end of the world. But the guys he's fighting are dangerous strikers. I mean, Lyman Good is a scary looking guy. I know he's not the greatest fighter. Sato. These guys can all throw bombs. I don't think he's going to have to be as worried about getting hit with a strike in this fight. He's probably going to be worried about getting grappled, right? So new dynamic for sure. And we're not exactly sure how that's going to change these numbers, these striking numbers that we're used to seeing. It might slow down his output because he's worried about getting taken down. That is certainly possible. But he's got an 85% takedown defense. He's a decent offensive wrestler. Bilal lands his two takedowns every 15 minutes. Maia's getting himself 2.5. So I think the value comes down to one thing, and it's takedown defense. Are we of the belief that Bilal can stuff some takedowns, keep this on the feet for the majority? In that case, he should probably be minus 300. And if you're of the belief that Damian Maia is easily the best grappler he's ever faced and will have success against him, then you have to see value on the underdog. Basically, is the way this goes. So I think this is more like beauty is in the eye of the beholder for this fight, because we don't exactly know how the takedowns are going to go. If you can project them properly, I think you can easily find the edge. If this stays on the feet, it's Bilal Muhammad 75 times a day. You know what I mean? But if it doesn't, I don't know. I really don't know. I think Damian Maia could submit him. So it's up to you to determine if Damian Maia, 43 years old, shooting for those single legs, is gonna get enough of them. If he does, could be trouble. But yeah, I think Bilal's got good wrestling, good hands, good distance control and the rest. So for me, I like Bilal Muhammad here, and I think it should be leaning towards that minus 300 that I said. If he can stuff the takedowns, he probably should be. But again, that the jury's out. We'll find out Saturday night. Next up, Paul Craig, Jamal Hill. Very interesting 205 fight here. Two guys that almost always end up in the finish. So I don't really see this one going to decision, which makes the data a little bit more useless, as variance is where the money will be made here. Do you see any value on Paul Craig or Jamal Hill? I know the line stretched a bit, minus 300-ish for Jamal Hill. Is that bettable, or is the value on Paul Craig?
So I actually see a little bit of value in Jamal Hill, and I may end up parlaying him. I don't have a parlay yet. Ideally, if I can get him and Leon Edwards near even money right now, it would be like minus 180. I probably can't touch that, but if somehow I can get them two together at even money, if public hammers one way, I am going to be all over that. Um, the key fight that you should go back and watch if you're breaking down the film on these guys is Paul Craig versus Alonzo Menafield. So if you go back and watch that fight, you'll notice that Menifield's coaches the entire time are screaming when he's in the clinch, doing the aggressive clinch on Paul Craig. They're screaming, back away, get off him. They knew they're in a clinch, and that's exactly where Paul Craig wants this fight to go. If As long as Jamal Hill can stay away, keep his reach, he's great at maintaining his reach. He's got the 3-inch reach advantage. He's younger. He's only been a pro for 3 years. He's really raw, hits hard. I will say he has terrible takedown defense. But the one thing about Jamal Hill is he fights for a way up quickly. He kind of plays that game, the floor is lava. He gets taken down, but he gets right back up. He's strong, athletic, long, uses the cage well. He doesn't play that whole grappling game. He wants to keep it standing. But in saying that, I really don't rate Paul Craig much. I think he's beaten some guys I'm not too high on. He's beaten old Shogun, Antagulov, lost to Menafield, beat Vinicius Moreira, I'm also not high on at all. But he does have the experience edge here. He finds a way to win. He has good submissions, but he's one of those guys also kind of like Mayo, where if he knows he has the ground advantage, the advantage in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's one of those guys where if he gets barely tagged, he'll have to take his wobble, go to the ground and try and get you to get on top of him so he can lock you in some crap. He's always trying to clinch. I think the key thing here is that Jamal Hill, like I said, he doesn't play that game. He worked his way back up, kind of plays the floor is lava game, knows his strong suit is striking. And since he doesn't have any interest in clinching or taking the fight to the ground, he's not going to shoot for any takedowns. I think Jamal Hill pretty much knocks out Paul Craig. I'm not going to touch the over under. I do agree it doesn't go to the distance. But at minus 300, I'm not touching that. So I lean Jamal Hill here pretty heavily. At minus 300, it's tough. I obviously want to take it straight up. But I think he sticks to his game plan. Craig's not the best offensive wrestler, but he could get Hill down for his lava game. We'll see. I like Jamal Hill here.
I was looking at this fight and I came to the conclusion that I think the line's pretty good, but if I was trying to find value, it'd either be on the under or maybe a sprinkle on some Paul Craig inside the distance. Look, reason being is these guys, they finish fights, okay? Paul Craig, he might not be the greatest striker, but he does hit hard, and he is looking to take you down and get that submission. Jamal Hill's takedown defense, as you mentioned, not good, 53%. Look, Paul Craig averages getting down 2 takedowns every 15 minutes, does it at 26% accuracy. That means he's attempting 8. If he attempts 8 takedowns against Jamal Hill, he's going to get a couple. Now, if he can get straight back up, then those takedowns don't matter. But if Paul Craig gives him a little bit of trouble on the ground, then it's going to get interesting. Originally, I thought violence. This is not going the distance. Probably a Jamal Hill knockout, but maybe he gets subbed. If the line for the over-under was 2.5, I would be on the under. However, I think it's set pretty appropriately here at 1.5 with, about plus 100, plus 110 tops on the under. I don't think that's quite enough for me, but it does feel to me like 50-50. We're pretty close to a pick 'em on whether this, is finished within the first 1.5 rounds. That doesn't leave value, right? Like a fair line is not what I'm looking to bet. So if money wants to come in on this over, or they want to put up the alternate 2.5 prop with some juice on the under, I could be very interested. But as of now, at minus 300, I just can't back Jamal Hill with a 53% takedown defense. But he's got a lot of time to show that he's improving there. If he starts to improve, this guy could be a contender. His volume is insane. He's landing about 8 strikes a minute, only getting hit with 3. doing it at a 52% accuracy, while absorbing only 51% of what comes at him. So, it's average in the sense that when they're trading, the same accuracy comes through, but his volume, like this guy is active, he's pressuring and he's throwing in combination. That's how you win on the scorecards. If this fight survives and goes to the scorecards, I'd be very shocked if Paul Craig won. And you can get Jamal Hill. Where are we by decision? Like plus 375 is the best line available. Something to consider. I think it goes under, but again, at that price, yikes. I don't know. Paul Craig's a pretty tough guy. If he can waste enough time grappling, he might survive 15 minutes. Plus 375 by decision feels way too high for me too. So there's potential bets on each side, no matter how you want to slice this one. I think it'll be a barn burner of a fight. Really looking forward to that one. All right, that's the main card. It's wrapped up. I know we don't have a lot of great bets on it. Those lines they were tough. There's not a favorite under minus 220, and yet each of the underdogs has a pretty clear path to victory. Whether they'll be able to execute or not remains to be seen. But let's sprinkle a little prelims here. I want to give you guys a bet, and this is one that I personally made. Drew Dober and Brad Riddell under 2.5. I got that at plus 140. I feel like there's going to be a lot of violence in this fight. If we take a look at Drew Dober, his last 5 fights, none of them went to decision. On the flip side, Brad Riddell has never had a finish. He's got 3 decision wins. I'm not even so sure he won all those fights. Some of them are close. But I think the main takeaway is that all 3 of the opponents he's faced really wanted to grapple him. He gave up 3 to De Silva, 3 to Malarkey, and 8 to Mustafayev. Drew Dober's probably not going to attempt a takedown in this fight. Unless he's in trouble or rocked, he probably will not shoot for a takedown. And both these guys, they like to throw in combination, counter in combination, and throw bombs in the pocket. To me, I just think there's a real good chance somebody gets hurt in this fight. And with a 2.5 line, plus 140 on the under, I'm making that more like a plus 100. I think there's a good coin flip chance someone really gets tagged and hurt here. Both guys really good strikers. Brad Riddell's a little bit sharper, I would say, in terms of the accuracy front. Well, that's what the data shows anyway. And he does have a better spread on his strikes landed versus absorbed, but that also comes with his schedule. There's no comparison in the strength of schedule at all. Dober's is way harder. And so I'm a little bit more impressed with Dober's stats here. But ultimately, yeah, if you're going to be trading in the pocket like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, it's not a fight I'm looking to money line unless I'm getting good dog odds. But this under, it sure feels like it should hit a lot more than a plus 140 would indicate. This is closer to 50% than a 60%. A 40%. The plus 150 would be a 40% probability. So, yeah, to me, this feels much more like a coin flip. I'd love to hear you talk about Dober and Riddell. I think this is fight of the night. What do you think?
Yeah, this definitely has fireworks written all over it. So you got Riddell, kickboxer, versus Dober, a power punching boxer. Few things I want to point out is Drew Dober's been on a tear. He ran into the train that's Islam Makhachev, who everyone else in the top 15 is avoiding. He took the fight. Yeah, he got dominated, but it's Islam. I think he's probably definitely a future 155-pound champion. I think he's a future star in the making. But he has impressive wins over Alexander Hernandez, Nasrat Haqparast. I'm high on Haqparast, even though he's kind of lower ranked. I think he has a ton of potential. He's looked good. I think that I agree with you. I do like the under. I think it's more likely Dober knocks out Riddell, which is can be kind of surprising. But I think just the power and volume, the best way to counter a kick to the leg and a high kick's a punch to the face. I think Riddell catches or Dober catches Riddell and knocks him out. I like the side you're on. I haven't gotten too far into this one yet. I lean Dober. Haven't finished my research on this one yet. But those are my 2 looks, and I do like the under, like you said.
Yeah, I lean Dober at the current line. I was thinking it should be like a minus 145, minus 150. So, barely worth betting, but maybe a small edge on Dober. But I think the real value lies in the violence and the under. That's just me. And I know you like this fight here. Carlos Felipe, Jake Collier. I believe this is the first fight of the night. So we're going to allow our viewers here to kick off the event with a bet. Why don't you take us through this big boy matchup?
Yeah, so this is definitely an interesting one. So I know we're kind of on opposite sides here, but that's normally understandable, and there's a reason for both our opinions. I'm actually on Carlos Felipe here. I'll not super confident, just a 1 unit bet in Carlos Felipe. I think he has the volume edge, and I do think since Collier's moved up to heavyweight, as we noticed after his first weigh-ins, everyone was making jokes how much he gained in weight. Looked terrible for the Tom Aspinall weigh-ins. Looked a little bit better against John Valente. I don't rate him at all. I personally think whoever lost that fight was probably getting cut. And I think they're maybe feeding to Carlos Felipe. I think Felipe has the edge in volume. He doesn't gas. He has great cardio for a heavyweight. If Coley does start slowing down, I expect Felipe to take over. I think we could see a stoppage in late round 2 or round 3. Don't have any prop bets for that one, but I just locked in Felipe to keep it safe. That's my side as of now. Is Carlos Felipe.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually like the Jake Collier side. He did look horrible against Aspinall. He was basically a meme. He was in better shape against Vellante. I'm not going to say great shape. He did get tired, but in that fight, he landed a lot of strikes. Any heavyweight should be tired after landing 123 significant strikes. That's very good volume. He got knocked out right away by Aspinall. But if we go back to 2017, and you mean he was off from late 2017 till 2020 when he came in looking like Peter Griffin to fight Tom Aspinall. Back then, he had good volume too. He landed 94 strikes in his fight against Fortuna. He landed 123 against Vellante. That's 2 of his last 3 with pretty significant output. And Carlos Felipe, he's a guy that's going to land in the 70s. He did that against Tafa and Jorgen De Castro. So I actually think Jake Collier could out volume here. I think he throws sharper punches. He mixes up his combos better, straighter, just good technique, straight punches, more combos, mixing them up. And I think Carlos Felipe is pretty easy to read. He throws looping hooks. That's all he throws. And, it's a 1-2 big overhand right. I don't see a whole lot else from him. Good pressure, decent cardio. He's a tough guy, good chin. I'm not here to hate on him, but here to assess some value. And I thought getting Jake Collier around plus 150 was too high. I thought it was closer to a coin flip. Then again, I also thought Justin Tafa should be the favorite against Felipe. He was plus 165. I bet that at multiple units. I thought he won the fight, and he did not apparently. Even though he Tafa outstruck Felipe 86 to 77, and I thought landed the better strikes in the fight, still did not get the nod. So, I mean, what do I know? I guess this is another guy who I think can outstrike him just a little bit at plus 150 with his experience level being more. I think his technique being better. I think we see a better version of Jake Collier here, and I think he's very live to win this fight. I'm not saying he will. I'm saying very live dog in my opinion. So I'm happy with the Jake Collier side, but that's okay. We're definitely due for some disagreement. Sometimes we do the show and there's a lot of disagreement, and sometimes there's almost none. And when there's none, it just becomes an echo chamber. Nobody wants that anyway. So there you go. Carlos Felipe, Jake Collier, we're split on. Can't wait till that fight starts up. We're so due for some UFC. I know, just like last Saturday, after a week off before that, it felt like such a long stretch. And now it's like
Christmas.
To my veins. I'm ready. I'm ready for more. Do you have a best bet for this card?
I don't really have anything I'm too big on right now. Like you said, usually for these big pay-per-views, what I notice is the lines are a lot more accurate. There's more volume, more people are excited about the card, more money's on each bet, so everything kind of evens out. So normally on the smaller fight nights, I seem to do better. In saying that, the two I would probably say Brandon Moreno, because I do think that's truly a 50-50 fight, and at the line we're getting at plus 190, it's pretty crazy. One other thing to take note of is that this is only I believe the second card back with a full capacity crowd. So expect madness. That's one thing that could play into Nate Diaz. Another fighter, like I mentioned, Carlos Felipe, who I'm on, I think they could play into him. He's one of those guys that showboats a lot. Could get the crowd behind him first fight of the night. Maybe kind of changes judging a bit. Who knows? But yeah, I expect madness. I'm fired up, Dave.
Yeah, well, the fired up MMA cappers fired up. So am I. You like Brandon Moreno? I think that's a good bet at these dog prices. I certainly wouldn't be laying the chalk on Figgy. I have no problem with wanting to take a shot on him here. I'm a little bit puzzled as to why the line is so wide after what we just seen, but we'll find out Saturday night. I'll stick with this violence bet. Drew Dober at plus 140 under 2.5 rounds. It's not exactly the most confident. If you want to just put your mortgage down, you take Leon Edwards and you just don't even have to watch. He's going to win. I agree. I think there's actually decent value. He probably should be like minus 800. It's a little bit of value. I'll take it. But yeah, as far as good, solid bets go, I like that under 2.5 at dog money. And you like Moreno. Not too often our best bets are big dogs like this. I like it. If one of us hits, we're up again. Linesniper's on a bit of a streak. So thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for tuning in. For Joe, Linesniper, I'm Dave Milhouse. We're out of here.